The self is a very complicated topic. Because the self exists in all kinds of subtle forms. Look around life. Almost every corner of it has been occupied by the self. All kinds of self-concern, all kinds of self-indulgence, all kinds of self-pity, all kinds of self-consciousness. In a world where people are becoming more and more individual, it is manifesting more and more power of the self in dividing people, in creating this isolation, in creating all kinds of issues, conflict between people, between countries, cultures. The self has been such a very entrenched concept in many societies. Almost all human societies are built on the concept of the self. All kinds of human needs are from desires of the self. It is obvious we exist as an individual, as a person. Outwardly, we are all individuals. But inwardly, are we still individuals in the sense of being separated? In that very view of separation, the concept of the self is developed. So everyone works for the self to make the self happy, to make the self emotionally stable. But one may have found out that it is impossible to stay peaceful when the things around one is full of violence, aggression from other people or other egos. Those things that attract you, like commercials, all kinds of media information, are all driven by other egos for their purposes. In a world built upon the self, the world is full of mutual exploitation, mutual use. For most people, they probably don't realize the issue of the self specifically, but subconsciously, the mind is very sensitive to the self, to all the aggressions, all the violence from the self. In the daily life, people still speak some decent verse, but the aggression beneath is there. You can't find the verbal proof for that because the mind, the self, is very cunning. But the problem, the aggression, the violence, the conflict arising from the self is there. The turbulence of the mind, when it reacts to this, is there. So to meditate is not to make the self happy. It's to see clearly the havoc the self has created on each human being. In that very seeing, that's to understand the total structure of the self, to be able to aware of the self in the life, found the interactions between you and your friends, the people around you, to be able to perceive the self, to be highly alert for the self. Then meditation becomes a fight against the self.